Hi, Reed Parks, Product Manager at Leviton for Commercial Lighting Controls. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you an overview on our new Smart Ceiling Mount Sensor product line and take you through the app and how to program the product. Our new Smart Ceiling Mount Sensor product line has the same form factor as ProVolt, but it's on the inside where we've made a bunch of changes in terms of the feature set and what the product can do. Within this product line, we've got multiple models. We've got PIR only, both sensors and room controllers. We've got room controllers and sensors also that are multi-tech PIR plus ultrasonic, but with a 180-degree field of view. And we also have both sensors and room controllers that are multi-tech PIR and ultrasonic that can do a 360-degree point of view. So to make any changes to the settings on the device, you will need to have the Leviton Smart Sensor app. So what I'll first do is click on the app, and we have multiple product lines that share this app. We have the wall box sensor, the fixture mount sensor, and then now the ceiling mount sensor. So I'm going to select the appropriate product category, in this case the ceiling mount sensor, and then I'll select, and it's going to take me to a scan list and show all of the available devices in the area. I just have one device here, so it's only showing one, but if multiple came up, what I could do is hit the identify button, and whichever device that one is connected to, the lights will turn on and off and the LEDs will blink on off to let me know which device that is. So it's a way to help select the proper device. Now, there's other things I could do from this page as well too. If I wanted to filter the list and only select sensors that are closer to me, I can adjust the signal strength of the Bluetooth radio, turning it up or down. And by decreasing that, it'll give a list of sensors that are available based on proximity. From this page is also where you can create a group of multiple devices. You can have up to 5 sensors grouped together that can share the same occupancy zone, and you can create that group from this space. Again, I only have one model here, so I'm going to connect to that sensor and show you how to program the device. Once I'm connected to the sensor, I'm brought into this main settings page, and there are several things that I can do here. For one, I can rename the sensor if I want to. I can call it Conference Room A or Men's Bathroom, something along those lines. And I also have a section that's called More Details. This will tell me the model number of the sensor that I'm connected to and what firmware level they're at. If there was an update available, it would also show that here, and you can do all the updates over the air just using the app. So as new features become available, we may occasionally roll out new updates, and those can be uploaded to devices that are already installed. So moving down the list, I've got a couple of options that I can select here. For one, the sensor that I'm connected to is a dual-tech model. It's passive infrared and ultrasonic. From the main settings page, I can make adjustments to the sensing technology. This is a multi-tech sensor, so it's automatically set up to be PIR plus ultrasonic. But if I wanted to make it PIR only, I could select that here, or also make it ultrasonic only. There might be certain applications where you may want to turn off one of the sensing technologies. For this, I'm going to keep them both active and then move to the next section. With both of the sensing technologies active here, I can also make adjustments. I can fine-tune the ultrasonic to increase it or decrease it based on the size of the space that I'm in. Usually the larger the space is, you're going to want to have it cranked up higher, or for a smaller space you can have it down at a low setting. Same with the PIR, you can manually adjust that up or down based on the size of the space, and to either increase or decrease the sensitivity, which will trigger the sensor to turn on or off. Next option we have is walk test mode. This is also a great tool for determining the coverage pattern of the sensor. If I enable that, what it will do is essentially go into this mode for about 15 minutes, and it'll shorten the timeout to about 15 seconds, so I can do a walk test through the area and make sure that the sensor is picking me up in all the corners of the space, and then Once I confirm that I have adequate coverage, I can basically end the test, and all those settings will be set in place. You also have the ability to select operating mode. In default mode, they're auto on, so it sees motion, it'll turn the lights on. But you have the options to do manual on. In manual on, you'll need some type of a control device on the wall. With this product line, we have the PLVSW, low voltage keypads, and then we also have the new wireless companion switch and dimmer that can be used for the manual on setting. And then lastly, you can also use it in photocell only mode, so it will disregard anything that the occupancy sensor sees and just base light levels based on the amount of ambient light that enters the space. Alright, next up are the timeouts. So after a space becomes vacant, before the lights will turn off, it'll go through the timeout countdown. In default mode, we have that at 20 minutes, but you have options to have it be anywhere from 30 seconds up to 60 minutes. So again, this is the timeout that I want to set after a space becomes vacant before the lights will fully turn off. Next up, I have a toggle switch for LEDs. If I had a space, say it's in a hospital or a classroom, and you want to limit any distractions from the device itself, you can toggle to have the LEDs turn off so that there won't be any blinking LEDs. There's another feature called walkthrough enable. This is different from walk test mode, and this would be used in applications that would have a lot of pass-through traffic. So think of like a hallway or corridor or possibly an aisleway. And if you enable that, it'll decrease the timeout to about 2.5 to 3 minutes unless there is extended activity in that space. In that case, the normal timeout pattern would kick in. So in this case, 20 minutes. So next section, we get down into some of the more advanced settings. So you can change operating mode, light levels, or daylighting features based on time of day or day of week. So within this portion of the app, you would connect to it, you would sync up the settings in the system from your phone, so it'll pull in the clock, the region, and location. And the location is important because that's how, if you have any schedules based on sunrise or sunset, that's how that information is going to get transferred over. But essentially what you'll do is create a type of behavior that you would want to have happen and then run a schedule for that. So an example of where that would be used in an office environment is, say after hours, we might want to have the timeout reduced from 20 minutes down to 5 minutes to get some extra energy savings. Or we may want to even have the partial on just come on to 50% instead of full on. Another example would be perhaps on the weekends, we could also run a different schedule, maybe have those timeouts even shorter. So again, try to maximize the savings during occasions when the space is not going to be heavily used. And you can run multiple schedules on the device. It's simple scheduling, so it won't import holiday schedules, but it will change behaviors or operating mode based on time of day or day of week. Once we get under advanced settings, we have a list of other features that become available. The first is daylighting. And this sensor is set up with multiple daylighting options. So your daylight mode, you have it disabled where it's off. You can also do ambient light hold off. We would recommend that for switching only fixtures. Essentially in that mode, if there's sufficient ambient light present, it'll hold the sensor from turning the lights on regardless of occupancy. And then last is daylight harvesting, and this is true daylight harvesting. So this would be when the sensor or room controller is connected to a light fixture with a 0 to 10 volt driver. In this mode, the lights will dim down or raise up based on the amount of ambient light present to meet the target level. So in this case, we'll go ahead and select daylight harvesting. Now in daylight harvesting, there's multiple modes that you can choose here. There's closed loop, which is going to measure both natural ambient light and then also the light from the fixture. So basically right underneath the sensor, which is generally the most recommended, or just open loop if it's only pulling in light from a natural ambient light source. For the calibration itself, there's multiple ways you can do it. There's automatic, where in that mode, the lights will be kept on for a full 24 hours, and then the sensor will basically detect the darkest period in the middle of the night as the target light level, so that any additional ambient light that enters the room above that point, it will dim the lighting down until it hits that target level. You can also select manual, and in manual, you will need to manually calibrate it, and there's a couple of important pieces of information. For one, it'll show you the current light level in that space. So right now we're showing 400 lux, roughly, and I could put the target value in here, and I'll just go ahead and make it target at 400, which is the current light level that it sees, so that anything above that, it will start to go into a daylight harvesting mode. You also have, with your daylighting, additional features that can be programmed. You can set a minimum dim level if you never want the lights to go fully off. You also have your response time, so the amount of time it takes to adjust to that level, and you've got multiple options from a minute up to 30 minutes. And then on your dual relay models, you also have a zone 2 offset, so that if your second relay is in the secondary lighting zone, you can also program it to essentially be up to 50% off of what the primary light zone is. So for example, if there's sufficient light in that primary light zone to turn the lights all the way off, your second light zone would be on at 50%. Another feature under advanced settings is you can set up details on the dimming side. So this is where you would set up your partial on. So basically, as you enter a space, if the lights turn on automatically, it'll come onto this partial on level. I've just adjusted that to 50%. Now the user in the space can adjust the lighting beyond that using the keypad or switch on the wall, but essentially it would come onto that level. And then also you have the ability to set up partial off, including a partial off timeout. So the way partial off works, once a space becomes vacant and that initial timeout expires, it'll go down to this partial off level versus all the way off. Now your partial off level then has its own timeout, anywhere from 30 seconds up to the option to have always on. So this could also be used in spaces like stairwells, or again, kind of some dimly lit long hallways or corridors where you may want to have at least a minimal amount of light on at all times for safety reasons. On the bottom section of the dimming page, you can also slide the dimmers up and down to see in real time the dimming level of the sensors, and so that can help you adjust your partial on, partial off levels to what would be adequate. You also have the option to set trim levels. That's going to be under the load tab up here, where you can basically set min and max trim levels for your light fixtures, and then any dimming that's done after that is in between this range that you've set here. And on your multiple relay models, you can do that for both the primary and secondary load. Next up, we've got a section for external inputs. And there's multiple external inputs that can be selected for these devices. We have single relay and dual relay devices. The example here, I'm connected to a dual relay, so you have multiple external inputs that can be connected to it to control both of those relays. Some of the options include a low voltage switch, which is our PLVSW. For California Title 24 applications, we have a demand response input as well too. And then for UL 924, we have an emergency input. And all of these inputs would be on the low voltage side of the sensor. Now, if you have a switch configuration set up, again, having multiple relay models, you can define those in different ways. So with your switch configuration options, you have multiple options that you can choose from. This being a dual relay model, you can select it to be primary zone or one of the relays, or a secondary zone, which would be the other relay, or you can have both zones together, which would be more of a typical three-way. As I mentioned earlier, where you can have multiple sensors networked together, if you have sensors grouped that way, you can also choose network so that the light switch would essentially control everything that is networked together. So a lot of options to choose from there, and again, the ability to fine-tune for how the space is going to be used. Another nice feature is a status input. When you connect to the status, it'll basically tell you the status of the sensor at that time. So it'll tell you if the space is occupied or unoccupied, what the current light level is, what that daylighting status is. I don't have daylight harvesting enabled, so it's showing disabled right now, and I don't have demand response connected, so that's also showing inactive at that point. It'll tell me what the different light levels are for each of those zones as well too. Another great feature with this app is the ability to create templates. So if I am installing devices in a large building and you're going to have multiple rooms that will have the same settings, once I configure one space, I can save that as a template, and then when I go into the next room, I can upload that template to the device, making the configuration quick and easy to do. You also have some ability at the bottom of the page on the app where you can create a passcode to protect all of your settings. This is also where you can return the sensor back to factory defaults as well too. Alright, so on this next section, I'm going to show how you can also pair one of our new wireless companion switches or dimmers to the sensor or room controller in the space, and again, that'll be done using the app. So I'm going to connect on the wireless companion section here, and I have one of our battery-powered wireless companion dimmers that I'm going to pair to the sensor. So first thing I'll do, I'm going to add a new companion. In here it's going to tell me there's a little bit of work I need to do on the dimmer. To put it into pairing mode, I'm going to press the top button 5 times, which will put this into pairing mode. So I'll go ahead and press that here, and you'll see basically the green LED start to flash to show it's in pairing mode. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and basically the green light starts to blink. And now I'll continue with the app. Next, the app is scanning for all of the available companion devices. Our recommendation is to only put one companion device in pairing mode at one time to make this process go as easy as possible. So with the companion device showing up, I'm going to hit the plus button to add it and say I'd like to pair to that companion device. And now the pairing process begins. So the pairing is now complete, and I'm asked if I want to pair additional companion devices to the sensor. You can pair up to 4 to a sensor. This is the only one I'm going to be doing today. So it's asking if I'd like to pair to another companion. I'm going to say no, and it just is now going to finalize the pairing process. So it's now showing the companion devices that are already paired to this. Here's the new one I just added. And like our external input, you can also select the configuration, whether you want it to control the primary zone, secondary zone, both zones, or a network. Now, if this was just a single relay device, you would just have 2 options. You'd have primary zone and network. Now that we have our companion device paired with our sensor, if you go back to the main scan page, it will also show up on this page. It'll show that your device is paired with that sensor, and it now becomes a group. Once devices are grouped, to do any changes to the schedule or to create schedules, you'll actually do it from this main scan page using the gearbox in the corner here, and here's where you can set up your schedules and behaviors. Another great feature about this app is that we've designed it to be as intuitive as possible, but we've also provided little help points all throughout the app. You'll notice in the upper right hand corner on every page there'll be a question mark, and this provides contextual help. And it's going to be unique for the page you're on. So there's helpful hints that can guide you through each of those sections, what is needed, some terminology, and again, that's going to be available on every page within the app.